Hi, and welcome to our channel. My name is Bailey Slater, and I am the Fence Builder's Wife. Today, I'm taking you along as we do a short tear out and rebuild of a client's fence. A lot of the methods that I'm showing you today are our old school methods. However, this post pulling method is not our old school method. This is our tried and true method of pulling posts. One of my first viral posts was about pulling posts. I can tell you from experience that my husband makes this look so much easier than it actually is because I have tried it and I'm not nearly as good as he is. However, he did break this one off, pull it up, but still managed to get it all the way out, so I was super impressed. Now, while he finishes pulling out posts, I roll up all of the extra wire. This is usually where we use the wire dog. My next YouTube video should be using the wire dog because this hand rolling is for the birds, and you can tell me I'm doing it wrong, but I really don't care because I really hate doing it. Now that all the posts are pulled and the wires all rolled up, we are now clearing the fence line of brush and debris to make it a little easier in running our guide wires and our fence line. So that really mean looking bush right there has a bunch of little tiny stickers that are really hard on tires. And you need to note that, because that will explain why we are doing this what some would consider the hard way. Once we have the path cleared, it's time to roll some bob wire. I'll come clean with you guys. This is such an old school method of rolling bob wire for us, but this was such a short stretch of fence, it didn't make sense to pull the whole fencing trailer out here. And because there was so much mesquite in this fence line stretch, it didn't make sense to pull back and forth 5 times and risk getting a flat tire. Because at the end of the day, we're in this fence building business to make money and not lose money in flat tires. So once we got backed in and we're where we needed to be, Zane loaded the bob wire roll. I stand there looking like I can help, but these bob wire rolls are so stinking heavy, I had no business even standing there. So Zane hand pulls this down to the other end. Like I said, we'd usually have used the fencing trailer and tied onto one end and pulled to the other. However, in this case, no flat tires, no thanks. Once we get down to the end, Zane goes ahead and ties off the wire to the H-brace. This H-brace was not made by Straight Line Fencing. It was a purchase by our client and one that they had hanging around and they wanted to use. With this being such a short stretch of fence, we didn't see a problem in using a pre-made H-brace that the client already wanted to use. However, our preferred method of putting in H-braces is field-built H-braces where you weld them in. Field-built H-braces, in our opinion, are easier to manage and work with in getting a very straight fence line, where pre-built could make the argument that they are faster to install. However, if you're trying to get your fence line as straight as possible, they're much harder to get lined out. Now, since that was our first wire, that is what we would consider the guide wire, and Zane will go ahead and get that pulled taut. We use a Lug-All come-along. We have found that these are the best come-alongs when it comes to fence building. Now, are these suckers expensive as all get out? Yes. But in our opinion, has the best ratcheting mechanism, and all the levers are external, so it makes it really easy to use when you've got gloves on. They also have really long cable options, which come in more handy than you would think. Also, they hold up really well to all the sand in our country. Could not have anything that gets jammed up with a little bit of dirt. Now, you can get these come-alongs on Amazon, and I will put that link down in the caption for you guys, but you can also get them at Lug-All.com. Occasionally there's some sales on there. Might be worth checking out every now and then, especially around Black Friday. I think that's when my husband got these last ones. Now, Zane goes and pops the fence a few times. This is to ensure that the fence is as straight as possible and also not caught on any weeds or sticks or anything that would keep it from getting pulled as tight as possible and being as straight as possible. Now, I'm going to take you down here to see from his point of view of what he's looking for. I'm going to be real honest. I do not have the eye for this. Like, it is definitely a skill that you have to hone in on to see how a fence is straight, or at least that's my opinion on it. Now that Zane has the fence as tight as he wants it, he goes ahead and cuts it off from the barbed wire roll so that we can go ahead and get it tied on to the H-brace. Now, something that I have to note for myself, because I have messed this up, is to make sure that you put it on the same side of the H-brace as you did on the other end. So if you put it on the north side of the H-brace at one end, make sure it's on the north side at the other end, because I have crossed these up before and my husband has had to fix it. So just for you other fence building wives, take note. So Zane uses his fencing pliers to get from where the come along is holding it tight to where the come along is tied to the end of the H-brace to get it tight here. He has enough hand strength that he is able to do this with the pliers. He wraps it around the post a few times to make sure that we don't put any slack in the fence, and then he wraps it back on itself to keep it nice and tight. Now he takes the come along off. Now that we have the guide wire nice and stretched, nice and tight, we will now start scattering T-posts. I am laughing so hard at the fact that we are using a tape measure here because we usually have a piece of pipe that's already pre-measured for this. So this is such an old school method of building fence that it's comical. Also, the fact that we are using a hand driver to pound these in instead of our pneumatic post pounder, which we have spent thousands of dollars on, is also comical and prehistoric. But I told you at the beginning of this that we were using some very rudimentary techniques in building this section of fence. The reason my husband's going to tell you is because he didn't want to chance a flat tire running the skid steer back and forth up and down the mesquite more than he absolutely had to. But if you ask me, I think the man just wants to stay in really great shape and look as sexy as possible because he loves me and wants to keep impressing me even after all these years of marriage. Now it's just a bunch of rinse and repeat until we get to the end of the fence line, which is only about 200 feet. Like I said, this is a really short stretch of fence. Now Zane knows how to get the T-post all about the same height because he measured it against his chest and he knows his equipment to know exactly where that post is within the post pounder. Now when it comes to getting the T-post in a straight line, he uses the guide wire and kicks it as close as he can to the guide wire, pushes it down, but he also makes sure that the plate is facing the fence, therefore we can clip it whenever we're all done. Now while he's pounding in the posts, I am scattering T-posts in front of him in order to keep this moving as quickly as possible. Now, as Zane starts pounding in the last post, I start scattering stays. These are cedar stays, and I think they make a fence look really, really pretty, but oh man, are they a pain in the butt to put in. Now, there's going to be 2 stays in between each one of the T-posts. Putting in stays isn't extremely common in our area. We mostly do 5-wire Barbwire with T-posts. However, this client likes the look and the added strength that stays give their fence, and I do have to say it does make a really pretty fence. Now this is the part where I get in my workout because I am carrying these stays down the fence line and scattering them. Now if you ask me if I'm doing this to impress my husband or stay in shape for him, that's definitely not the case. I am just out here to get paid. And no, not necessarily I get paid because I don't take home a salary from the company. However, the company did pay for that white truck that I get to drive and haul all of my horses around it. So I guess if I want to keep my horses, I better keep scattering stays. So now Zane's going to go ahead and get the top wire pulled tight, the same method he used to get the guide wire or the bottom wire pulled tight. Now while he did this, I took myself a little break, and that's because whenever I was scattering T-posts, the client may have pulled up and he got his own break by sitting and chit-chatting with them. It was probably business chat, but doesn't matter, I'm taking a break. So as Zane finished getting the top wire tight, it was time for me and my little helper to get started on clipping the fence. Now, this is a family business, which means the whole family is involved. So our daughter Brooke, her job is to untangle clips and scatter them on the fence line where they're needed. This is Brooke's first year being out on the fence line with us, and she has become such a little hand, and we are so proud of her. It's not all work and no play out there on the fence line. She does bring along her dog and does work on her 4-H dog project while she's out there. Now, if you think working on your dog project out on the fence line is work, it's not. This kid and her dog goof around way more than any training gets done out here on the fence line. Now the fence was stretched up and the posts were all tied in. However, they all still needed to be topped. However, at this point, Brooke and I needed to take off because she had school in the morning. So we left all of the topping off to be done by Zane. And I didn't get any finished video of it all topped off, but this is one beautiful fence. If you liked our work, give us a like and subscribe to see more of our future fencing builds.